Hello and welcome to the MRO Show, presented by Chadwell Supply. I'm your host, Matthew Trotter, Director of Education. Chadwell Supply is 100% dedicated to the multifamily industry. Your order is on our truck, delivered the next day. You can learn more at chadwellsupply.com. Today, the MRO Show is here live at the NAA exhibit in downtown Philadelphia. It is apartmentalized 2024, and it is having a fantastic time here. We did a taste of Philly just yesterday, and it was unbelievable. I swear I tasted all of Philadelphia, and I might be paying for it this morning. But today we are here with Joshua Nichols. Joshua is the Director of Business Development for Guardian Construction, around 2 decades of experience in the industry and 15 years as a supply partner in multifamily. Joshua, great to have you here.
I'm just thrilled to be here, Matt. I appreciate you having me.
You know, we talked on the phone, right?
Yes.
You know, a couple of weeks ago. We talked and just kind of kicked around about what we're going to do, what we're going to talk about. And when I talked to you, I thought to myself, this man has the greatest head of hair I could ever believe. That's all I could picture. I just pictured you with this amazing head of hair because of just the way, I don't know, the way you sounded, the way it came through. And now meeting you, we're literally twins.
Yeah. You know, I used to say the good Lord made a few perfect heads, the rest he covered with hair.
Absolutely. And for us to be together in one place at one time, I mean, it's like either buy a lottery ticket or look out for lightning. Those are the only two options.
That's right. That's right.
So today we're talking about, we had some great conversation, you and I. And
yes.
What we're talking about today is, it's kind of a funny phrase. It's called falling forward.
Yes.
Or what was another phrase?
Failing up.
Failing up. That was another great
Yeah.
one. So this is where it's kind of an oxymoron, right? It's like you failed, you didn't make it, you didn't quite get there, you didn't make the cut, you got cut from the team, all these different, analogies for it. But how do you do it well? How do you fail up? How do you fail moving forward? So give me a little background about this.
So it's kind of funny how the whole thing transpired, right? So I was the next gen chair for Texas Apartment Association in 2023.
Next gen. So next generation. Younger
right.
generation. Okay.
Correct. And I felt like, as my duty as a state chair is to try to make an impact on the next generation. And so I offered to speak to local associations if anybody wanted to have me. I learned in that if you offer to speak, you might want to let them know how long you're willing to speak. Because honestly, my thought was I'll show up, speak 10 minutes, wave goodbye, and ride off into the sunset.
Quick in, easy out, no worries.
Correct. And I got there and they're like, well, we're going to give you an hour. And we want you to talk on whatever you think will be impactful.
How generous.
Yeah, very broad. So I saw a big yellow mead pad, the one that, strategic planning pads or whatever you want to call them, the ones that, you need a tri-stand for.
Right.
And I just started writing down a lot of things that have been very impactful in my career. Some of them, I learned through my own mistakes. Some of them were mistakes my grandfather made. Some were mistakes that my dad made. I just threw all of them down and started talking, and it really it's created a life of its own. And now I've gotten to speak to like 11 different groups. And it's really just about, being okay to fail, learning to get rid of your ego,
right?
Learning a lot of it's, servant leadership. I really had to learn to start doing things for other people. And I had a lot of ego when I started. I was from a small town, very competitive.
Yep.
So for me, it was always about just winning.
And I'm coming out of a small town too. You saying that kind of like just brings up these memories of like, I was either going to be a farmer, a tradesman, or go to college. And like my father, it was really about, you've got to be the best, you've got to achieve, and you got to excel.
And that's a lot of pressure, right?
A lot of pressure.
When your dad's telling that, or any parent. My dad was very successful engineer, invented a lot of different, medical devices, and built parts for planes. My grandfather, as we talked about, invented the cap gun in the 40s.
Which is still blows my mind because I literally growing up. That's my childhood.
I even have
that's my
tattoo.
You do have it on there
on my arm.
I had 2 6-shooters. That literally is my childhood. I was ready to go.
It's pretty neat, but through their successes, they failed many times, and even though I didn't get to witness it necessarily with my grandfather, I did get to see it with my dad.
Tell me a little bit about, well, you said your grandfather failed. Where did he, because he invented a cap gun. So, I mean, that's awesome.
He did. And so, he's the first person to make toys in North America after World War II, held the patent on the original black cap.
Wow.
I tell people before him, people held wooden guns and said bang. So
Yes.
he did that. But, as you moved into the 60s, Hollywood quit talking about Westerns as much. They started talking about a different frontier in outer space. And that's where Star Trek came from. A lot of your science fiction
That
came
is so
from.
true. It went from bang to pew.
That's right. Lasers. And so, through that, instead of him finding a different niche, he just kept trying to build a bigger cap gun.
Oh, wow.
And a shinier cap gun and one that held more shots. And
wow. Talk about hindsight.
yeah.
Huh?
And
You're
he
looking
almost
back.
ran his entire company to bankruptcy. And it's funny because if you look it up, out of all of the cap guns ever made in the world, he's responsible for about 65% of them.
Wow.
But
Wow.
he failed miserably.
That is such an interesting, because you're all in, right? You're like,
All in.
I'm vested in this.
That's
this
right.
is my job. This is my life. My identity is wrapped around it.
Well, I think it goes back to he wanted to win.
And he wanted
He
to win.
just wanted to win the cap gun war, which I think he was the only one involved with it at that point in
only
time.
one fighting at
That's
that time.
right. So that taught me to be flexible.
Interesting.
Taught me to be more flexible in not only what I wanted, but what I wanted to achieve. And it made me realize to keep my eyes open along that path, because you never know what niche or what technology. I mean, before the iPhone came out,
Right.
we would have been sitting in here with notepads and spirals and
Yep.
5 stars, maybe a trapper keeper. I don't know. We'd have all of that, though.
Absolutely. No, you're right.
So being flexible was really, really important, and something I learned out of the gate pretty quickly.
That's so accurate. And I don't even think we think about that. I mean, think about when you're doing a job and you're going down one pathway, or even like if I'm trying to do some work or I get hurt on the job and I wind up, dropping something or failing something in that route, and I quickly want to get it fixed, but I want to stay on task with what I'm doing. I don't want to change my ways.
Right.
Or we keep on going on the same path and we're selling the same stuff and we're just seeing people not buying it. And we're like, nope, we're going to double down on it and keep going. Truly being flexible helps you to, once you do fail, you take that first step back and you say, am I in the right spots?
Yeah. Is this what I'm supposed to be
This is what
doing?
I'm supposed to be doing.
That's right. It definitely makes you more self-aware. I think recognizing flexibility, you start to notice at times. So it's like self-awareness is not something I had until my late 30s.
It took me a while, truly a while, to get self-aware of who I was, who I am, and how I deal with people.
That's right.
That is a big deal, because honestly, I really didn't even I'm trying to think of when I started managing people, which is what I do today, and when I stopped saying it's my way or the highway. Because for me, it's like I can do things 6 one way and half a dozen of another. The job still gets done.
Right.
But what influence and how is that going to affect the people around me?
Yeah, and never underestimate the impact you can have on someone. So I think a lot of times when I am on a task now, that's the first thing I think of. When don't get me wrong, it was early in my career. It was never something I thought about. It was like, how is this going to affect me, my career, my home life? It was very self-centered.
Okay.
Not even in a good selfish way. I'm not talking about like, hey, you need to take a mental health day and be a little selfish with yourself. Like it was very selfish, and it got me nowhere. I wanted the accolades. I wanted recognition, but you're by yourself.
Well, let's settle into that for a second. You're from Austin, Texas.
I live in Austin.
You live in Austin,
I live in
Texas.
Austin.
Yeah.
I've been there 18 years.
18
I
years.
grew up on a Longhorn Ranch, Jacksonville, Texas, outside of Tyler, Texas.
All right. Yeah.
Home of Earl Campbell.
Deep in Texas.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
So your career started with what? Where did you start off at?
So I had a corporate training background. I worked for 2 large corporate companies. I actually was a corporate trainer for the original iPhone launch.
All right.
So before they were ever released, I taught a lot of people how to sell iPhones. After they lost exclusivity, I wanted to do something totally different. So I got a call from a startup fitness equipment company called Fit Supply, which they're actually here at NAA.
Okay.
And I worked for them for 10 years, loved it. I'm still really close with a lot of the people that work there. But you've seen 5 or 6 fitness centers. You started seeing them all.
Right. Yeah.
And
Not a lot of variety in there.
Yeah, for me, it became really redundant. And so I was wanting to do something different. And it wasn't that I was looking, but I just knew that I was kind of tired of doing it. And so I got approached by Contractors Inc., who they're also here at the show, and helped launch their national business development platform for them. I was there 4 years and then made the move over to Guardian. And, just stayed in the construction world. Allows me to see something completely different every day.
What was your goal going in when you saw the construction? You said, okay, I'm going to go into the construction. I'm away from just this one niche of, you saw, the niche of fitness, if you will, for the multifamily. It's just kind of cookie cutter over and over again.
Right.
You go into construction now. What was your goal going in? What was your singular focus?
Well, this might sound crazy, but I'm not really a construction guy. I don't consider myself a construction guy. I always tell people, if you see me on a job site with a hammer, someone's in trouble.
Someone's
in trouble.
Wrong. Someone's in trouble.
But it allowed me to, in fitness, I did a lot of renovations on amenities, and I worked with several different GCs in the country. To work, they're doing the full leasing center. I'm just doing that one amenity.
Right.
But I developed a really good working relationship with several of the large GCs. And after several years, it was like, hey, come on over here and just do the whole thing. I don't bid work. It's not something like you said earlier, you manage people.
Right.
I love people, but you do not want me to manage your team. And whether that's because I've got this accent, I can probably get away with saying things most people shouldn't. I'm not the person to teach you how to do it. Now, situational coaching, mentoring, those are things I'm really good at. But if you have me in the office 1 week a month doing credit card transactions and mileage reports, like, you're wasting your money on me. I'm much better to be in front of people. So that's kind of what I've done in construction. Is I'm more of the door opener, or a caddy. If you want a good golf reference after the US Open, I'm a caddy for my account managers.
Okay.
I look at myself as a complete support tool, which is totally different than the way I looked at any job before 2018.
So when you stepped into your career, did you have a top end goal? Did you have, I want to be this person?
So I wanted to be, when I joined the multifamily industry, I wanted to be vice president of the Austin Apartment Association faster than anybody had ever been vice president. And I remember asking in one of my first meetings, what's the fastest anybody's ever become vice president? And that was my goal. That was a terrible goal. I mean,
why is that a terrible goal?
I didn't even know what the vice president could do that I couldn't do. And I still sometimes have to keep that same mentality today. I have people often that are kind of go, hey, I'm thinking about, I want this other job at work, or I want to get promoted. What do you think of that? And I always ask them now, what can you do in that role that you can't do in your role today that you want so bad?
Oh, that's a great question.
A lot of times people don't have an answer, and they go, okay, well, it's more money. And I go, what are you going to do with the money? Well, I don't know. Well, it doesn't sound like you need it yet. So being aware of your why you want to do it, why you need it. I do a little exercise with people that says, hey, write down the job you want on a piece of paper and then read it out loud to yourself. And if it makes sense, then flip it on the back and write what you're going to accomplish in your new role that you can't accomplish in your current role. And if you don't have anything to write, that's not the right job for you yet.
That's a great assessment tool, isn't it? That
Yeah.
really is. That's solid.
Yeah. So that's the way I try to tell people and teach people to kind of go that path.
Because this is not just money or status, which are two things that are very alluring to people. I know it is for me as a guy. It definitely is, because it feeds into my pride, feeds into my ego, feeds into all those things of having a title and what I'm doing. But like you said, what is your actual tangible thing that you're going to do differently in your life?
That's right.
And how is it going to affect you?
And it has to, and that's your why, right?
Right.
Find out your why. I also think that it's very important for people to learn to define success on their own terms. And the reason I say that is my great grandfather, my grandfather invented the gum. His dad was a Methodist preacher in Arkansas.
All right.
And he had a huge congregation, never made any money.
Right. Yeah.
But he was so successful, they named a mountain in Arkansas after him. So there's a Nichols Mountain in Polk County, Arkansas, named after my great grandfather. Was he successful? I mean, it's kind of hard to say no, right? Like he's got a mountain named after him. Yeah,
you have a mountain.
I don't even have a dirt road named after me, let alone a mountain. And then you take one of his kids, my grandfather. He invented the cap gun, made a bunch of money, almost ran it into the ground. So it's like some people think they have to make a bunch of money to be successful. And as you and I talked on the phone, we come from two dads that are like, oh, you're not going to be successful unless you do this. Like my dad's was, you have to have a college degree.
Yep.
And I knew that wasn't going to be my path.
Right.
So I really dove into trying to understand and define what success meant for myself. What does that look like? Do I want to make a bunch of money? Yeah, I like money. Money's good,
Money helps.
right? I can buy a lot of stuff with it.
Absolutely.
But there was a point in time in around 2017 where I was making a whole lot of money and I felt completely empty. I didn't feel, there were times I was like, am I in the right industry? There was a lack of fulfillment.
Ooh.
And I learned no matter what you're doing, if you do not feel fulfilled when you get home, you're doing the wrong thing, in my opinion.
Those are definitely the things in your life that money absolutely will not fill. It will not bring wholeness to you.
It will not.
If you're not doing certain things. For me, I know that I have to help people. I'm an impact person. I know that about me. So if I'm in a role that I'm not making an impact, whatever that might be, doesn't have to be a big role, small role, wherever it is, I just have to be making an impact. If I'm doing a job that is repetitive, that will always be there the next day, and it's just that assembly line, concept, that will leave me feeling empty. But
it will, and it's dark. It's kind of dark.
It really is. You fall to that space, and that's not a healthy place to be. Not for you, not for your family, not for your children.
Yeah, and if you don't feel successful at work, it's hard to feel successful at home.
100%. I agree with you.
And I only have one kid. She's very young, so I'm 44. It took me a long time to have a child.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, it changes you. Well, it does change you. And I didn't even want kids. And I ended up having a daughter. And I'll tell you, she's about the coolest kid I've ever met. Of course, I know every daddy crow thinks his baby birds are the blackest, but she's something else. She's something else.
So when you were coming through, one of the things that I've learned, I know we talked about, is how you affect people on your way.
That's right.
Like I've mentored others, I've led others, and I had a huge learning curve with that. I know you were part of the Texas Association and the Next Gen. Like, what was your first, why did you sign up for Next Gen, and where did it take you in your growth, in your actual?
So I think in 2017, I had a lot of self-doubt. I started, like I said, I wanted all these accolades and awards, and I never got any of them. So for me, it was, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right industry? And it was never like a self-evaluation, like, am I doing it the right way? Well, I don't know why I didn't ask myself that sooner. But it was constantly about, what do I need to get other people to understand differently, not what do I need to change.
How do I get them to see me in a different light?
That's right.
Yes.
Now, I would say, with having a corporate training background, mentorship was always, I thought, valuable. I enjoyed coaching younger people and stuff. Didn't want to be responsible, didn't want to manage them, but enjoyed coaching them. I think later I realized you don't have to mentor someone to make an impact. And I'll give you an example. Before I became chair of Next Gen in Austin, which was before TAA, I'd pretty much been removed from every committee you can imagine. I ruffled a lot of feathers. All right. I approached things the wrong way. And as I'm almost leaving the industry, there's a guy by the name of Gus Villegas that was president. And he said, I think that guy needs to be the Next Gen chair. And everybody was like, oh, no, not Josh. That guy's crazy.
Have
He's
you met
loud.
him?
Yeah,
No.
he's abrasive. And so he's like, I just don't think y'all have given him a chance.
Wow.
And it's amazing that one thing pretty much changed the path of my career.
Him believing in you.
Me. Yeah.
Literally, and speaking it to others.
Speaking it to others changed my path.
Pointed you in a different direction.
That's right. And through the past year and a half of speaking to other people, there have been times where, you walk up to someone and go, hey, I heard your talk on so-and-so. It really, really spoke to me. You're not there to try to make an impact, but you never know what those people are going through. Like, Gus had no idea where my mind was at the moment that I'm about to leave the industry. I'm not cut out for this, apparently. And he gave me that little bit of belief in myself that maybe there are some things that I'm doing right. And how can I figure out what those things were? So around that time is when I started to realize that I did have the ability to make impacts on people. And I didn't have to be a vice president. I didn't have to chair a committee.
Right. Exactly.
Anybody can do it. Anybody can take the time to walk over to someone and say, hey, you did a really good job on that. And I know it's not for me, but I just wanted you to know, like, we really appreciate it, because you never know what that person's going through. That person might be scared to death that whatever they're doing is terrible. And that one reassurance or good job. I don't know if you listen to any like Simon Sinek. You know who Simon Sinek is?
I've heard of him. Yes,
he's a pretty sharp guy. He does a lot of leadership coaching, and he talks about M&Ms, mentoring moments. There's a lot of people that say, oh, I just don't have time to mentor someone, or, oh, I don't have time for a mentor. And it's like, but you're given these sweet little opportunities every day.
Oh, that's fantastic.
To make an impact. And those are M&Ms, mentoring moments. And so I try to always be mindful of that. When I see someone down, it's kind of become my nature to just go over there and go, hey, oh, well, you might have messed it up. It doesn't define you. Fail with grace.
Fail with grace.
Fail with grace.
I mean, we're talking about failing forward, and that is something that is hard to do well, because when you fail, sometimes it compounds. So I fail once, I fail twice, and all of a sudden you get in this rut of seeing failure in everything you do, not seeing success in what you actually bring through.
That's true.
And having that one person, that moment, that mentor for just a second saying, I saw you do this, and that was awesome.
It's amazing the power that has.
100%. Yes, indeed.
It's I know firsthand it changed my career, and it changed my mentality. That 2018 was a rough year for me.
Yeah.
A couple car wrecks. Actually got a weird viral eye infection. I think we talked about this on the phone. Almost lost my eyesight in 2018. Yeah. So it went from, you know what? I'm not going to do anything in this industry unless I really want to do it. I'm not going to go to this event because everybody says I should show up. I'm only going because I really want to go. And it's amazing when I made those simple changes of really just doing the things that my heart was in. A lot of those awards that I've tried to get for years, they just started happening like naturally. And I tell people, when you start doing it for other people, it'll change your life. I mean, it will completely change your life.
That is an amazing thing. That is something that's, I don't know if everybody has actually noticed that's what they're doing, but I've got people in my life that have come through and have set me on that path, and kind of, I thought I was going around the wrong way. I was failing in everything. I couldn't do anything right. And they just picked me up in that little bit and put me right where
That's awesome.
just redirected my life.
And you're probably pretty close with those people still.
I'm still pretty close with
That's
them.
right.
Yeah, they're still in my life.
It's amazing. We don't lose touch with those people.
You don't lose touch with those people because they are the ones that actually will speak, and they saw those things. They took a time to look past your reputation, what other people were saying, and they said, no, I saw him do this. That is amazing. I want to congratulate him and tell him that this is a great place for you to be.
Yeah. And you hear people say, find a support group that talks good about you when you're not in the room.
100%.
Who's going to go advocate for you? And it has to be genuine for that to happen.
Yeah.
It can't be a show. It can't be fake. You have to have real, genuine connections with people for that to start happening.
I like that, because being in management, I directly want to support and be positive over those that obviously are my subordinates that are under me,
right,
looking for me for guidance. But like you said, you get every opportunity to take a moment. How many people do you meet in a day? How many times do you watch somebody speak? How many times do you get to see somebody do something, do their work, watch their craftsmanship, watch how they handle others, how they work in their environments? You get so many opportunities to take a moment and literally just say to them, I saw you do that, and I think that is amazing.
And I think another thing that we haven't spoke about, but we've talked about it previously, is gaining access and building value.
All right, unpack that.
And I think some people might take the term servant leadership and feel uncomfortable with it. I don't know why, but they might.
Some can.
So I look at, it's a little acronym. I call it GABV, gain access, build value. And if you start to implement that, not only at work, but in your personal life and your relationships, not only with your wife or girlfriend, but with your parents or your siblings, with your friends, and just start learning how you can get in there and be of value, good things start happening.
Be able to authentically gain that trust, be in that relationship, gain access, allow them to speak in their life, for them to speak into yours as well. And then, build that value.
I've got a funny story. My first 2 years in fitness equipment, I was begging people to buy fitness equipment from me. Nobody would buy anything from me.
That's got to be a good look.
And I walked into the corporate office of Riverstone Residential, who was later acquired by Graystar. And I noticed everybody's kind of running rampant in there. And there's a guy in there I'd never seen. Now, they'd never bought anything from me. And they're converting all of the corporate employees from BlackBerries to iPhones.
Wow.
Well, the IT guy didn't know how to do that. And with my background, I knew exactly how to do it.
Right.
So I was thinking, okay, there's about 15 people in this office. I said, you know what? I can convert them. And they said, are you serious? I said, yeah, I can do all of them for you. And they said, good. We have about 140 of them.
Oh,
so I spent 3 days in the Riverstone residential office, and I transferred every employee from a BlackBerry to an iPhone, and I taught their IT guy how to do it. And when I was done, they called me in an office and said, "You're our new fitness equipment preferred supplier." And after that, I sold fitness equipment to them till they, merged with Graystar.
That's
and
phenomenal.
A lot of the people that were in that office, they buy construction services from me now. And
wow,
it was funny because I spent 2 years trying to sell.
Right.
And that day, it was just, let me get in here, gain access, and start building some value.
And build value on
and it happened like that. So, in our industry, everybody talks about and says, you got to build value. If you're not selling, you got to build value. But if you really start to implement that as a life motto, it doesn't have to be in sales or in business.
But it has to be genuine.
It has to be genuine.
It has to be genuine.
People see right through it.
They will absolutely see right through you.
Eat your lunch.
And it's a bad situation when you show up and you really don't have that heart. When you really don't.
And you notice how fast you notice it when someone's trying to do it to you. he pick up on it so quick.
Pick up on it so quick.
It's like, we use the term fake, like that seems so fake. I can't do that. So the gain access, build value, flexibility, understanding why you do things, why you make those decisions, and then defining success on your own terms. What do you want out of life? Do you want to impact people? Do you want to make a bunch of money? You want to go sip pina coladas in the Caribbean for 3 years? I know people that have done all three of those.
And if you notice this, there's nothing wrong with those trajectories. There's nothing wrong with those being your points of reference.
Absolutely.
You can pick any of those. You can pick I want to make a lot of money. I want to go sip pina coladas. I want to have a boat. I want to help people. I want to be committed to my family and build that area. All those are fine. Just make that your focal point.
As soon as you figure out how to define it, you'll be more fulfilled.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the only way to become a fulfilled person at work, at home, parent, sibling, like I said earlier. Really understanding why you're doing it and what you want to accomplish.
I like the way you deliver this, to be honest, because we're talking about a topic of failing. We're talking about a topic of not making the mark, not making it, and failing short. And what you do then. That's got to be the most vulnerable time for anybody in their life. I've failed. What do I do next? And so run me that list one more time. Hit through as to what you're doing first up, what you're thinking about. You started with flexibility.
Yeah. So number one's learning to be flexible in what you want. Understanding niches come and go. Timelines are different. I tell people all the time, when you're being flexible, understand that you're on your own timeline. Right. Some people I know got married at 18 or still married. I knew some people that knew they wanted to be a doctor in 7th grade and now they're a doctor. And I know people that are not married yet, me being one of them, and didn't figure out what they wanted to do till they were 40. Don't let someone else's timeline determine yours. So you got to stay flexible.
And that flexibility comes into the business you're in, the project you're on, and the who you are.
And what you want.
A little bit of a couple different pieces in that. So
you got flexibility. Second one is gain access and build value, right? Like get in somewhere and make an impact, which brings us to impact. Okay. You don't have to be someone's mentor to make an impact. You don't have to be vice president of your company to make an impact. Employees create the culture, not the leadership.
Right.
Which will tell you, you can be at the bottom and make an impact. And that was probably the hardest thing to figure out, but impact. Third would be defining success on your own terms.
Defining success.
And then understanding why. Those are my 5 tips.
Those are great. Those are fantastic.
And if no matter what you're struggling with in this industry, if you live and die by those 5 things, I feel really good that you'll become more successful and be a more fulfilled individual.
Well, Joshua, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate
you joining us on the
having
MRO
me.
show. Chadwell Supply absolutely thanks you as well.
I appreciate
and
you.
And we love that you're in the industry here speaking about this and talking about this vulnerable topic with many people because it's helping them become leaders themselves. So appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Matt.